One of the best ways to look at Neptune in a mundane sense, that is how it involves itself in worldly affairs, is to look at Neptune with other outer planets. And we do cycle work for that. So let's take Saturn for example. Saturn's the planet of solidarity and structure. It's often related to government. So when you start to put Neptune, which has the quality certainly of higher idealism with Saturn, then we have the ideal conception of government. But anyway, getting back to the discovery point, and that's 1846, it wasn't long after that that the Communist Manifesto was put out by Karl Marx, published by Karl Marx. And this of course changed political thinking in Europe and really around the world thereafter. If we go then to the opposition point where Saturn and Neptune came into opposition, right at the turn of the 20th century, so we're looking around 1899, we can see that socialism has started to infiltrate politics a lot more. So we have Labour politicians actually representing their people. So there's a move away from the capitalism that, you know, started really the industrial age towards more of a sharing of the wealth that is typical of Saturn and Neptune. Then we can look at the conjunction of 1917. Now we're at the end, or almost the end, of the First World War, but we're certainly at the fall of the Russian Tsar. And we have the siege of the Winter Palace and the Bolsheviks. And from that point on, really, Russian politics again has changed, and we have the socialist state. The opposition point was in 1935-36, and during this time, Stalin has now risen to power. He's purged through the ranks of his party, and also we're seeing propaganda not only in Russia, but also across Europe on the other side in Germany, where the fascist state and Nazism has risen with the Third Reich and Hitler. And what we're seeing here is not just the Saturn, the state control, but also the propaganda that's attached to Neptune, because there's a certain amount of idealism attached to both these sides of politics, and probably nowhere was that carried out better or exemplified better than in the Spanish Civil War of the same period. When we see Saturn and Neptune coming back to themselves in the early 50s, 1952, the death of Joseph Stalin, and there's a power shift again in Russian politics. And then we can go through to the opposition point, and this opposition point was in the early 70s, 1971, 72. Again, there's a shift here. We have President Nixon going over to meet Russia, so it's kind of East meets West as well. The SALT Treaty is signed. Nixon also visits communist China. And finally, we have the conjunction of 1989. And of course, this is the fall of the Russian state, of the Soviet Empire, really. Not only the fall of the Soviet state, but we see also in China, where communism has become entrenched with Mao Zedong. We see a change there towards a combination of communism and capitalism, and more free markets opening up in China, and China trading with the rest of the world. So that's Saturn Neptune. State control mixed with a certain amount of idealism, but always bringing change through socialist policies.